There's a few electric reels out there to try. This is one of the ones I seem to enjoy and work with quite a bit as long as I'm inside of 1,000 feet of water. I'll back it with 80-pound braid. I like to use the thinnest, the smallest braid I can and get away with. So the 80 seems to work well. I can pack a lot on it. And then I'll top shot it with about a 60 or 80-pound mono. And I try to go with about 15 or 20 foot top shot. And what the top shot of the mono does, give you some stretch. At the same time, you want to use your drag. A biggest mistake a lot of people make with the deep dropping is they'll lock their drags up. They'll have it too tight. So when you're hooking these fish 600, 700 feet of water and you're fighting them all the way up and the current's pulling on them, is they're going to fight so hard and you're not going to have enough drag to slow the line down. They're going to rip themselves off. So what I'll do is I'll check the drag as soon as I get to the bottom and make sure that it'll stop the reel. And sometimes you might hear me say, got a reel stopper, and that's a good fish when I see that. And what it's doing is when it's fighting, it's stopping that drag and it's not all the time winching them up. And also with this reel, it has a counter on it. And a lot of these now are computerized, which works really well. It counts your line down and it actually is pretty smooth. You don't have to thumb them as much. So on the way down, it'll count itself down, and this one's in meters, so you have to learn the meters. So once you learn that, you count it down, and once it gets to the bottom, this is your free spool. You'll free spool here, let it all the way down. As soon as it gets down, you'll lock it up. And this is your gear. This is what reels the reel. So what I like to do is once it hits the bottom, I'll free spool it and keep the lead bouncing on the bottom. You always want it touching the bottom. You can't overdrop though. Some people make a mistake of keep letting it out. You're gonna end up snagging the bottom. So what I like to do is just barely bounce the bottom, barely bounce the bottom. When I do get bit, I'll lock it up and then I'll hit the gear. And this gear here will speed it up faster and slower as you work the reel. And a lot of times I like to start out kind of fast to get it into them, and then I'll slow it down and fight them all the way up. As far as my plug-in, a lot of people use the 30 amp plug-in. For myself, I just rig the clamps, the alligator clamps. And for me, it just works easier because I'll bounce around on different boats, and that way I can carry a 12-volt battery with me, just clamp it right on, I'm ready to go.